video game console. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to do sort of a little bit of a follow-up to my ranking Nintendo controller videos, and we're going to rank every Nintendo home console ever. I'm going to do some stuff a little bit different this time, since otherwise I think it'd be a bit more of a boring video. So I had some stipulations. So the first is we're only going to be talking about Nintendo home consoles, mostly the North American ones. So if I talk about the NES, I'm referring to the NES and the Famicom. If I talk about the SNES, I'm referring to the Super Nintendo and the Super Famicom. But I'm mostly going to be talking about the North American, games and whatnot. Number one, so that's the first thing. Number two, I have a rule that one of the consoles has to be F tier, and only one of them can be S tier. Now, this doesn't mean that the console's F tier, because one of the consoles is going to be F tier, only one of them, is bad. It's just, it's not a bad console, I should say that. I don't think the system itself is bad. I don't think I actually own any bad consoles. What I mean by that is, it's bad in the sense that it's compared to other Nintendo consoles, so, that's what I mean. So only one of them will be S tier and one will be F tier. And that's how it's going to be. The other ranks can stay the same. And I'll actually be going from the bottom to the top. So I'll start with the F rank console, then the D, then the C, then the B, the A, and then the S tier consoles. So that's another thing. That's another rule we have. And, yeah, and again, we're also going to be comparing them from two different perspectives. We're going to be comparing them for how they were at the time and the games that came out of them at the time, and if it's worth going back to them or not. So, like, is it worth, maybe buying one of these systems nowadays and, using it, as, versus just emulation or Nintendo Switch Online or whatever. So, yeah, without further ado, let's start off with the F-rank console. I don't feel like this one's going to be a surprise. It's the Wii U. So yeah, I was sort of surprised when I, put this at the bottom of my list, but let me explain. As I have said many times in my life, the Wii U is not a bad console in itself. Not at all. I think the Wii U was great. I had one when I came out. It had this one when I came out, and I enjoyed playing it a lot. It had a lot of great games. It had Smash. It had Mario Kart 8, it had, Super Mario Maker. I didn't have Wind Waker HD at the time, but it had that. It had a lot of good games. Even the packing game, Nintendo Land, I thought was a pretty great packing game. And I even like some of the mini games as well on that, and I think they're still great. And I'm sad that the gamepad concept never really got further than it did. But... Oh, and I should say, as another rule about this, I'm gonna rank these consoles as if you don't mod them, because if you mod them, if you mod a Wii or a Wii U or a 3DS, I know we're not talking about the 3DS today, but if you mod a Wii, a Wii U, or the 3DS, you should, by the way, if you have a Wii, U, or a 3DS, you should mod it nowadays, especially now with the eShop being shut down and the online services being shut down. But I'm ranking them as, if you just buy the console and you buy the games. And the reason I put the Wii U at the bottom is, at the time, it did have some good games. It did have some good games. It really did. Mario Kart 8 is one of the best Mario Karts of all time, if not the best Mario Kart of all time. Smash Bros. Wii U was great. Mario Maker, great game. Splatoon, great game. A whole bunch of good games. But I feel like, especially towards the last 2 years, so the Wii U was Nintendo's home console from 2012 to the beginning of 2017, but realistically, around when the Switch was announced, I mean, this was dead. I mean, the last game it basically got was the Switch's launch game, which was Breath of the Wild. So basically, this was Nintendo's current home console from 2012 to 2016, and 2015 and 2016, basically no games came out for this thing. I think Mario Maker is the one I remember, and Splatoon came out in 2015 as well. But besides those two, it was sort of like lackluster. So at the time, I mean, it was sort of like disappointing for half the Wii U's life. It existed. Half of the Wii U life was just sort of crappy. I feel like 2014 was probably the best year for the Wii U with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, or sorry, not, it's Mario Kart 8, and Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, and again 3DS. And I feel like, you know, at the time, again, while there were great games, and I don't regret ever buying a Wii U or having one, I had a lot of fun with it. It's just, I don't know, but that's not the real reason I put it at F tier, because, again, a lot of good games on here. My F tier will be the next thing I probably put in D or C tier. But the reason I did put this in F tier is because if you have a Switch, there is basically no reason to really buy a Wii U unless you mod it or you get the games cheaper, because very few Wii U games are not on Switch, or they have like an updated version on Switch. So Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is on the Switch. Splatoon 2 and 3 are on the Switch. Smash Ultimate, which is basically, in my opinion, a better version of Smash Wii U, again, on the Switch. Mario Maker 2, basically a replacement of Mario Maker 1, on the Switch. I think if I look at my Wii U games right now, I think, yeah, Star Fox Zero, the Wii Fit U, yeah, almost all my games I have on Wii U, I actually have on Switch. I think Wind Waker HD and WarioWare are like the main games I don't have on Switch. Again, if you mod the console, there is some things you can do. You can play GameCube games if you mod it. You can obviously mod the official Virtual Console games back on here as well. And you can play NES, SNES, GBA, and N64 and DS games. So again, you have to mod it though. So technically you're committing piracy, but the eShop is shut down, so you can't buy them anymore. And you know, and I think, you know, it's great that you can do that, especially when the eShop was up, but now you can't. And you can play Wii games on disc, which is good. But I feel like it comes to a certain point where if you really want to play Wii games, you're better off just getting a Wii, which are much more common and much cheaper. And honestly, most of the Wii U games that you want to play, again, if I look at my collection, Star Fox Zero, Nintendo Land, and Wind Waker HD are about the only ones that are on Wii U and not on Switch. And I think the only one, honestly, I really want on the Switch of those is Wind Waker HD. So, I don't know. I just sort of feel like it's not really a reason to own this. I guess the Switch version is more expensive, but some of the Wii U ports are kind of old at this point, so you could probably get a physical copy for much cheaper. Probably not much more than the Wii U, and I don't know, unless you're a Nintendo collector or you plan on modding it, I just don't see a real reason to buy a Wii U when if you already have a Switch. And usually the Switch ports are better anyway, like the Mario 3D World's Switch port. It has a whole other section to it. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with the DLC especially is much better than regular Mario Kart 8. Splatoon 2 and 3 are better games than Splatoon 1. Mario Maker, so I would say is a little bit better on Switch. It just, I don't know. The reason I have this in F tier is just because the legacy of this system is more of the games that it ported to other systems. It itself does not have much of a reason to go back to it. So for that reason, I put it F tier. Not a bad console. I liked having it. It just, its legacy is just sort of a bit tarnished, and yeah, that's my opinion. On to the next system. All right. So our D tier system today will be the Nintendo 64. This may be a little bit of a controversial pick, but I'm gonna stand by it. So again, I don't hate the Nintendo 64, but I'm being honest, personally and less objectively, I think this console is sort of worse than the Wii U, at least in my personal opinion. I just that now, not to say there isn't a lot of good N64 games. My favorite Star Fox game, Star Fox 64, obviously Nintendo 64. Although I played the 3DS version for the most part. Mario 64, great game, obviously. You know, basically invented 3D controls on here. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Mario Kart 64, Mario Party, all that's good, but And it is one of the first 3D consoles, so I shouldn't like knock it too much. But I feel like, you know, since it's the first 3D console, I don't know, it's the games haven't aged as well. Again, at the time, they were definitely a lot of fun, and they still are fun to this day, but I just feel like this console has the worst aging games, and that's sort of why I want to put it at D tier. Like, I feel like if you didn't really play the Nintendo 64 as a child, or back when it was new, it's just more of an console. Again, I like a lot of the games in here. Star Fox 64 is great. Ocarina of Time is great. But Star Fox 64 and Ocarina of Time, the 3DS and Majora's Mask, are the 3DS ports, in my opinion, are better. And Mario 64, obviously there's the DS port, and I'm kind of iffy. So in its non-modded state, the N64 or the N64 version of Mario 64 is infinitely better due to the controls. But there is a mod for Mario 64 DS that adds circle pad support with analog support and even the C6 support on the new 3DS models. And in my opinion, since that fixes the only real issue with Mario 64 DS, that's the definitive version of the game. And it's not even a hard mod to get working on a modded 3DS. It doesn't take that long to mod a 3DS, and it doesn't really take long to get Mario 64 DS mods working. So, in my opinion, that's the definitive way to play the game. But that being said, a lot of good games get their start here. Mario Party got their start. Mario Kart, was on the SNES, but I do think Mario Kart on the N64 is the first, good version of Mario Kart, in my opinion. I do like Mario Kart 64, not as much as I like pretty much most of the other entries, but I do think Mario Kart 64 is great. It's just, I think the N64 has not aged as well as, I don't know, I think sorry, I got a phone call I had to take. Yeah, I just think that the PS1 has aged better than the N64, since it used the CDs, and, it was cheaper, and you have better audio on the PS1, you had bigger games. I think the graphics, in my opinion, on the PS1 look quite a bit better than the N64. Again, not bad console. I don't know. I just feel like the games weren't really there yet for the most part. But first 3D console for Nintendo. I can't blame them too much. But definitely some good games on here. Just, I don't know. I feel like D tier is appropriate. So we'll move on to the next system. All right, the GameCube. Again, good system. I'm struggling on whether or not I want to make this a C tier or a D tier. I think I'm trying to do one console per rank because, yeah, I think right now, with the exception of, well, two of them have to be the same rank. I know what they're going to be, though. I think this is going to be my C tier console. Again, I love the GameCube. I have a lot of nostalgia for the GameCube, but it just comes back to, I don't know. It's I think because in a way this is almost worse than the N64, but the games we got on it were better. So the GameCube to me has pretty good games. Mario Kart Double Dash was one of my favorite games for a long time. I really like Mario Kart Double Dash, and Mario Sunshine is also great. I like Star Fox Assault. So game Star Fox Adventures is kind of weird. Melee is one of the best games of all time. But the reason I'm going to give this C tier is I feel like compared to... Okay, the GameCube is sort of a weird console. It is more powerful than the PS2, meaning it tried to compete, with the PS2, but it had this tiny-ass disc drive, meaning that it really couldn't, hold as big of games. So it tried to be like a major console with M-rated games and, actually be a competitor compared to the N6, compared to the PS2 and the original Xbox. But because it's trying to be a competitor to those systems, it kind of falls short on some of the things that make Nintendo, which, you know, more came out with the Wii. So I like the Nintendo Wii games on here, but I feel like it doesn't have as many like first party games. Again, but now to be fair, the ones it has are pretty good. I think the GameCube Mario parties are some of the best Mario parties of all time. I think Mario Party 6 is probably about my favorite Mario Party in truthfulness. That being said, and I said Double Dash is great, Star Fox Assault is great. Wind Waker came out on this console, Twilight Princess came out on this console, but also came out on the Wii. But, you know, people say this is the definitive version of Twilight Princess came out on this console, which I get. But, I don't know, it just sort of comes back to, I think because it didn't really do enough to distinguish itself, like the, you know, later Nintendo consoles like the Wii did, where the Wii was not really competing with anything. It was just sort of its own thing, which I think I like. Whereas this was, I feel like, in this like weird in between where Nintendo didn't really quite know what they wanted to be. They wanted to be serious. Oh, Luigi's Mansion. I forgot to mention Luigi's Mansion. Sorry. Yeah, Luigi's Mansion is probably again another great game on the GameCube. And again, even though I rank the Wii U F tier, I don't really hate any of these consoles. I like all these consoles. I just have to compare them, you know, with their peers for other Nintendo consoles, and for that reason I just find it a C tier. I don't find as much of a reason to go back to this system as other systems. I guess the last F-Zero game was on here as well, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel like this is more of a C tier, just with it's just this weird in-between stage before Nintendo was like not before Nintendo was Nintendo, but I feel like before like Nintendo like really like had their identity of what they're going to be in comparison to everybody else. And yeah, great system though. A lot of expensive games for GameCube, a lot of good games for GameCube though. Double Dash is great, Luigi's Mansion is great, but yeah, I don't know. I was talking about maybe giving it a B for a second, but you know what, I'm gonna put this in C tier. But speaking of B tier, the NES. Okay, so a lot of respect has to go to the NES. The NES is basically the reason we have video game consoles in America. Atari fucked it up bad. They really did. And Nintendo basically had to come up. I've talked about this in some of my other videos, and I'll talk about it more in my video next week on the different consoles, different regions. But the Famicom had to be turned into the NES and sold with Rob the Robot because it had to look like a toy in order to get people to get it. And then once people got it and already realized it was a video game system, they realized how good it was. And then video games were back in America, or North America. And you know what? Hats off to the NES for that. I love the NES for that. That being said, as much as I love this system, it has some serious, you know, it hasn't aged as well as some people like to think it is. So, of course, the classic games. Mario Bros, Legend of Zelda, Metroid, Excitebike, also Contra, all sorts of games. Great games. That being said, these games have not aged as well as a lot of people like to think they have. Again, at the time, NES has pretty great 8-bit graphics. I love the way the NES graphics look. But at the same time, a lot of these games are hard and have a lot of bullshit. I do not find the original Legend of Zelda that much fun. Zelda 2 is sort of interesting, but it's weird. But the original Legend of Zelda to me is not that fun. It's sort of annoying. It's a lot of just guesswork, and at the time, before the internet, I have no idea how you would do a lot of it. It's sort of repetitive. I don't know, I don't find that game that much fun. I don't dislike the game. I have my fair share of fun with it, but it's just, I don't like it that much. The original Mario Bros. I do like, but I think it's that game not having save is very rough. Mario 3, I do like that game quite a lot. Mario 3 is probably my favorite NES game. Excitebike is a game I actually do have a lot of fun with as well. Let's see, and then a lot of the NES was sports games as well, so like baseball, hockey, football, Tamika Ball, tennis, golf, a lot of those kind of games. So yeah, a lot of that is just, sports games that, really haven't aged. I don't think they're bad games to play nowadays. They just, haven't really aged well. If you want to play golf on the Wii or golf on the Nintendo console, I'd probably say you're better off playing it on the Wii or the Switch. So yeah, that being said, though, I would rank it definitely above the GameCube just because I feel like it's a lot more iconic. The games, even though I wasn't born yet, I feel like a lot more fun playing games this old. Like, I feel like they're so old that you start to notice past the flaws. You're like, well, it's old, it's fun. Original Mario Bros. Mario Bros. 3 is great. Excite Bike is great. Metroid is pretty fun as well. So yeah, in my opinion, all pretty good games, but hasn't aged as well as a lot of the other systems and the successor that we'll get to in a minute. So for that reason, I'm gonna give it B tier, and we'll move on to the A tier systems. All right. This one was sort of hard. If I let myself have more than one S, I would put this in S, but I didn't. So the Wii. Honestly, both the consoles I put into A tier, I probably could have put into S tier, but I only wanted to have one S tier console. But the Wii, I think, is what made Nintendo. So the Wii is a very unique system in the fact that this is probably the first Nintendo console that was not really designed to compete with anything. It was designed to be its own standalone thing. And basically, it is a souped-up GameCube with a pointer controller. And honestly, some of the Wii controls are some of the most intuitive controls I have played with. Let's just talk about games. I love Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort to death. They are such great games. They were so much fun. I loved playing them. It was so much fun. And this is, I think, one of the reasons I like this console so much. It is probably one of the best consoles to play with friends, which is something I have to give credit to pretty much all Nintendo consoles. I feel like Nintendo consoles are the best couch co-op consoles to this day still. Pretty much when we're playing games with friends at my house, we're pretty much always playing on the Switch. We sometimes play the PS5, but for the most part, we're playing with the Switch. Or the Wii even, for that matter. And I just feel like, you know what? I feel like the games on this console, even though the graphics look terrible, even by 2005 standards, I feel like they've aged a lot better. I feel like, the Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort have aged pretty well still. There's still a lot of fun to this day. Wii Play, also a fun game. Wii Play Motion as well. Other great games as well. Mario Kart Wii has been kept alive with modding, but, we're not talking about modding. I feel like Mario Kart Wii is a pretty solid entry. I'd rather play Mario Kart 8, but Mario Kart Wii's pretty good. New Super Mario Bros. Wii, also a great game. It's one, I'd say, that's one of the fun. I like all the new Super Mario Bros. Games, but it's probably one of the best after the original, or I think it probably may be the best new Super Mario Bros. Game as well. I'm just trying to look at my Wii games just so I get a little bit of a memory, but yeah, Mario Party 8 also pretty okay game. It's the last Mario Party before they went to that weird format. I don't know. I just feel like sorry, Skyward Sword for a while was only on this system. That's a great game as well. I don't know. I have, this is probably where my nostalgia's kicking in a little bit, but Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort alone made this system amazing, in all honesty. It sounds weird, but that's sort of how I feel. Probably Wii Sports is probably the best pack-in game of all time, including the original Super Mario Bros. So, I don't know. I feel like this is the console that made Nintendo have an identity, and I have a lot of memories playing Wii games with my family and whatnot. So, and then just to this day, I just have a lot of fun playing Wii games. I feel like, again, they've aged so well, and I don't feel like, oh my god, they look old and crappy. No, they've just aged so well, and that's why I'm giving this A tier. I could have given S tier, but there's a very specific console that I think deserves S tier. So yeah, definitely, this is probably my second or third choice, probably my second choice for S tier, but staying with A tier because we have to have 2 in a category. And this could have been S tier for many people, but again, Super Nintendo. So, in my opinion, the Super Nintendo is the pinnacle of pre-3D gaming. I feel like the Super Nintendo has some of the best games, especially since before 3D, and there even are some 3D games on the Super Nintendo, which is, well, 3D, but sort of crazy to think about. I just really like the Super Nintendo a lot, or Super Famicom, and I just feel like it's just, like, again, the pinnacle of sort of 2D gaming. So, obviously, I have Mario World in here right now. I love Super Mario World. It is such a fun game. It's probably one of my favorite Mario games, truthfully. I like it better than Mario 3. And, you know, I really like playing Super Mario World. It's such a great game. Donkey Kong Country, I haven't really played that game as much, but it is fun. Let's see what else. I'm just looking at all my Super Nintendo games. Link to the Past. I'm not a big fan of the original Legend of Zelda, but I do like Link to the Past. I love the music in Link to the Past. I love the way it looks. I like so many things about it. I love the thing I also like about the Super Nintendo is I love the graphics on the Super Nintendo. Especially when you start getting into games like Yoshi's Island. But I love the way Super Nintendo games look, especially when you have RGB cables like I do with this one, and they look so sharp, and they look so good. I love the colors on the Super Nintendo. I really do just think the Super Nintendo, in my opinion, is just such a good example of the pinnacle of 2D gaming. Super Metroid, I think I feel like the Super Nintendo really is like a Super NES is like such a great name, because I feel like it took the NES games that were really good and just made them better. Like Mario World is like a very, you know, clear evolution of the original 3 Mario games. Super Metroid, I feel like, is such a good version of, like, you know, like such a great upgrade of the original Metroid. Link to the Past is like such a good, a great update compared to, you know, the original Legend of Zelda. And it's just like, I just feel like the Super Nintendo just basically took the NES, made it look better, made the games better. And I don't know, it's just, I really do think that this is the pinnacle of 2D gaming. You can disagree with me. I like the Sega Genesis as well. But I don't know, I just feel like this was the peak right here. I think like the Super Nintendo is the best that 2D gaming has to offer. So that brings me to the S tier. I don't feel like it's that much of a surprise. The Nintendo Switch. Maybe a little bit of bias playing into here, but I have a lot of, you know, love for the Nintendo Switch. So the Nintendo Switch is the first console I have ever actually gotten at launch day. And I waited in line for 8 hours to get the original model Nintendo Switch with the blue and the red Joy-Cons. And oh my god, I was so happy I did, because I couldn't get it forever. And until recently, I just feel like the Switch has just had a hit after hit after hit after hit. It's like pretty much everything Nintendo has released on the Switch, in my opinion, has been great. So let me just go through the first 2 years of the Nintendo Switch real quick, and you'll understand what I mean. So the first game that came out on the Switch was Breath of the Wild, which is the best Legend of Zelda game ever made, and is one of the best open world games ever made, if not the best. And what a great game to start off with. Now, I wish, truthfully, that the Switch came out also with Mario Kart. I wish that was a launch title. I don't know why it wasn't, but Mario Kart came out in April of 2017, so a few months after. ARMS, which I did a whole video on, you should definitely check out, came out in, I think, May it was. Splatoon 2 came out in July. Let's see, Mario Odyssey came out in September or October. And again, I think that is the best Mario game ever made. I loved playing it back then. I still like playing it now. It is such a great game. 2018, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. I Okay, Nintendo a Wii U port, but whatever. We had in December, we had Smash Ultimate. Let me look. I have a lot of Nintendo Switch games, so let me have to remember because this is harder for me. Okay, I may have been wrong about the date with New Super Mario U Deluxe, so I apologize. But I can just literally go through here and talk and just look at the games I own and just because I realized I did download some of them. Yeah. Oh yeah, Super Mario Party. I think Super Mario Party is great. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. I know it's a Wii U port, but still a great game. Let's see here. Oh yeah, the Let's Go games, really great remakes of the original Pokemon games. I like the control scheme and whatnot. Pokemon games on Switch, I have to admit though, or have been kind of. Oh yeah, Mario Maker 2, great update to the original Mario Maker. Yeah, it. Oh yeah, and Animal Crossing New Horizons. It's just. I just have felt like the Switch is just like what the Wii U should have been. It's just been so good. Mario Wonder, Tears of the Kingdom, it's just such a great system. And I do want to go through also why I think the Switch is the best. Not only because of the hybrid thing is its own thing. So at the time, playing games like Breath of the Wild on the go and just being able to just plop it in the dock and then put it on your TV and just take it with you was truly amazing. I think that is it sort of like is crazy to me at the time. It was such a cool thing at the time. It was so cool how you're just able to just like play it on the TV and play it on the go. And I think that is one of the things that makes the Switch great as well, is just its versatility. In one system, you have that option. And, it makes it great because there's great single-player games like Breath of the Wild. They can, play with you on the go and play with you anywhere. And then you just plop it on the TV and you have, like, Mario Party, Smash Bros, Mario Kart, all these great games you now have, just pop it on. It even comes with you can just plop it on the desk or on the table. And then you can have, with the single Joy-Cons as well, which I know it's not the best way to play the game, but no matter where you go, you always have the ability to play tabletop mode with 2 Joy-Cons, and that's just such a great system. And another reason I like it so much is just because, this may be a controversial one, I think Nintendo Switch Online for the NES, SNES, and the expansion pack for N64 and Sega Genesis, I think it is so much better than what Virtual Console ever was, because if you go through, especially the NES and SNES games, there are so many of them. I mean, so many just classic games on here that are all at your fingertips. Oh, I forgot. Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. So, I mean, truthfully, the only thing we're really missing on here is GameCube and Wii games, and I think they can definitely do GameCube. Wii, I don't know how they're going to do that. I feel like a lot of the good Wii games have been ported or have an alternative that's better. But I mean, just looking at how many NES games are on here, looking at how many Super Nintendo games are on here, not as much N64 games, but GoldenEye actually got released on the Switch, which I think was awesome, for free on Switch Online. Well, the expansion pack, but still. And GBA games have been great. It's been really cool that they've had, they've had the All-Star versions, because before it was like, okay, with Virtual Console, like, oh, well, we have Mario 3 on NES. Are we really going to release the All-Stars version of Super Nintendo? That doesn't really make any sense. But because it's all free now, they will just release these, like, more, I don't want to say weird games, but they'll release these, like, collection games. So there's, like, 3 different versions of Mario 3, for example, you can play on here. So, like, you can play Mario 3 Advance, which is the version I've been playing. I like that version a lot. You can play Mario 3 on SNES, or you can play Mario 3 on the NES. And the Switch is also region-free, which I really like, so I've been able to, play a lot of some import games. But I just feel like the Switch, for many reasons, is S tier. The games they came out with were great. The backwards compatibility has been great, as well as the releasing of games that were previously only on other consoles has been great. The fact you can take it with you anywhere has been great. And because of that, I just think this is the best console Nintendo has ever made, bar none. Just because of how much new stuff it's done and how much it's done with the old. I know this may be a controversial opinion. I get if you think like any console. I mean, this is mostly opinion. I just wanted to sort of be objective and put each one in its own category. I could have probably had E tier, but I decided not to since I think it's kind of stupid. So we had two A tiers. If I had to do E tier, I'd probably just put the SNES in B. I'd probably move and then keep the Wii in A, and then move everything else down one. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Switch is just the best console Nintendo's ever made, and I really can't wait for the Switch 2. It's just been such a great console. It just, from the start, it came out swinging, and I feel like until last year, it was still swinging. I mean, it got Mario Wonder last year, but I feel like, Nintendo, it's been slow just because they've sort of been working on the new system, but we had 2017 to 2022, so yeah, 5 great years with the Switch, and just a solid backlog of games that I can sort of forgive them for slacking a little bit the last 2 years, but I don't know. What do you guys think? What is your favorite Nintendo console? What is your least favorite Nintendo console? Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree with it? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Be sure to subscribe and also check out my tech channel. I just uploaded a video unboxing the new Apple Watch Series 10, if that's your thing, and going over the history, a little bit of the history of the Apple Watch. So yeah, please check that out. And if you want to see my video, I'm coming out next week on game consoles and how they change in different regions. And the video was not, I wouldn't call it a mess, but it was a lot of information, a very dense video. Let me know. And I'll be working on trying to get another video out this Tuesday on this channel for, as a bonus video. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, please comment if you like to, with my list or whatever. Please like the video as well. It means a lot to me. And subscribe if you want to see more content in the future. And also just let me know what you guys want to see. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.